Good evening, and I would like to call the October 10th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Gallagher, Spranger,
Here.
Tansey, Tombergs,
Here.
Vermillion.
Here.
The Board of Adjustment is a five-member board appointed by the mayor. It is the responsibility of the board to interpret the city's zoning ordinance as it applies to special uses and variances. Public hearings are held monthly after each board member has had the opportunity to visit the site in question. A decision regarding the request will usually be made at the public hearing meeting. So we also were sent the September the board minutes I'm sorry, it says August 15th.
Yeah, we skipped
Because
a
we
meeting.
skipped,
Yep.
yeah, that's true. We didn't have a meeting in September, so we're approving the August 15th, 2024 board minutes. Would anybody like to, are there any questions, corrections? Would anyone want to
Make the
entertain?
motion to approve August minutes.
Second.
All right, no further discussion, roll call?
Spranger,
Yes.
Thomberg,
Yes.
Vermillion.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so first up is case 24-053, 2460 State Street. It's a C3 zone. Special use permit for an outdoor service area with alcohol submitted by Judith Marsical, and it was deferred from the August 15th, 2024 meeting. Is there an affidavit of publication for this and all of them tonight?
Yes, that's correct. We have an affidavit for all three items.
Okay, thanks. Staff report?
Yes, the area in question is bordered by Grant Street and State Street, 23rd Street, and this is 26th Street over here. Judith Mariscal of DeLua Taco Shop is making the request for a 400 square foot area for alcohol service that requires a special use permit. This area is C3 General Business District. The urban activity land use is what governs this site, and it's C3 in terms of zoning. There's very similar surrounding land use and urban activity south of Grant Street, and then there's civic, public, and semi-public up where the Masonic Village is, and then we have mixed transitional type of land use to the further to the north and west. And then we have I-2 zoning, general industrial to the south of this site, C3 either side on the east and west, PR5 overlay district to the north, and then R4 district zoning to the north and west. This is where the patio is on the south side of what was the former McDonald's at this location. That's where the intended outdoor service is going. The interior of this building is being renovated to turn it into a different kind of restaurant within. This is the north side where the entry is, parking throughout this area, and here's the drive-through area right here, and this is Grant Street on the north side. The parking consists of 45 spaces on site. 14 would be needed for the restaurant patronage area. That gives us 31 more spaces for 8 employees and also any additional customers. And this is the interior layout and how it is going to be changed. On the outside exterior is where you're going to have the additional 400 square foot patio being added. And this is a rendering of that area with type of wrought iron fencing. This is actually how it looks right now with the drive-through side, the patio out front, and then the entry exit way out onto State Street. The special use permit is required under C3 zoning for outdoor service of alcohol. And also we would add that we would, as many other places, we want to keep the externalities down so that the lighting would have to be downcast on this site for any nighttime service. Essentially, we go through the 9-step test, and as I mentioned, that the special use permit is required in C3 zoning districts for outdoor sales of alcoholic beverage. And there's also the other zones that are being, or the other requirements being complied with under standard number 2. The general area here has been commercial for several decades. It's a high-trafficked area. There are easy accesses in and out of this particular area, and that really the area around it, that this patio will have very little significance in terms of impacting surrounding businesses. We're looking at this as a minor increase in servicing capacity, and it adds less than 15% of the area's building coverage. So we're not really seeing much in the way of anything there. It also is conforming and will conform to the downtown master plan overlay district. And then the parking is sufficient, that there's enough sufficient area overall to accommodate the employees and the patrons on site, that other businesses nearby are not going to be harmed per se by anything taking place within the confines of this structure. As you can see, the surrounding area and the intensities that are taking place at present. There has been no prior request either for any type of special use permit recently. The condition that we would add on this is that before any occupancy on the patio is allowed, that there be a review done by the chief building official and fire marshal to verify that the addition of the patio does not violate any building or fire codes. And this is an ongoing process as the renovation is occurring within the premises. The Bettendorf Comprehensive Plan, Land Use Goal C, is to attract and retain more business and industry, so that element is being met. And again, staff would recommend approval with that condition regarding the chief building official and fire marshal evaluating the interior renovation. Staff would ask, are there any questions?
And this one's been out there a while, the staff report's been written for a while, so that condition has actually been met. They've been given occupancy, and they've actually opened. So the condition, when the case first came in, wasn't met. It is now met. They still have to keep meeting it, but, you know, we're there now.
Okay.
Sorry, this one held out there for a while.
Sorry. Little coughing fit. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Is anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? All righty. No other board discussion? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve case 24-053 for the outdoor patio.
I second.
All right, no further discussion and roll call?
Spranger,
Yes?
Tolberg,
Yes?
Vermillion.
Yes.
Sorry.
Are they keeping
All
the
right,
drive-through?
that passed.
I think so.
I know, nice addition down there. All right, next case is case 24-061, 4614, 34th Street, which is R2. It's a variance to allow a 6-foot-high fence in a required front yard submitted by Ahmed Osman. And staff report?
Yes, Ms. Chairwoman, the situation is this is a corner lot with Crow Creek Road on one side and then 34th Street on the other. The variance is being requested as the fence went up originally as a 4-foot-high fence on the property line. Petitioner is now requesting that it be a 6-foot-high fence given the amount of pedestrian traffic and also vehicular traffic along this roadway. What we see is essentially it is neighborhood light in terms of the land use, and the corresponding zoning is R2. Pretty much everything around this in lot is all R2. There is a PUD area further to the west, but again, what we look at mainly is single-family housing within this region. This will give you an idea. Right here is along this fence line is, this is incomplete, but the fence is complete up to a 4-foot height. And it is along the property line here, and then out front here is where you see it as 4 feet. Applicant, as I mentioned, wanted to make it 6 feet in height, given the proximity here to the sidewalk and then Crow Creek Road. And the applicant wants the fence to remain on the property line. This is the original submittal, and the area in green shows the area outline where the fence is encroaching if it were 6 feet in height. Typically, for through lots, Fences must face a minor collector, minor arterial, or principal arterial roadway. For a corner lot with the same type of arrangement, that is with an arterial collector or major collector or minor arterial or principal arterial, you're still getting the same intensities of more pedestrian traffic and more vehicular traffic. And typically the remedy under the code as it was written in 2022 when it was revised requires that if you're going to have a 6-foot-high fence, that it be recessed 12 feet away from the front lot line of the particular street that is either a collector or an arterial, and that there be one evergreen tree placed outside it, or in lieu of that, not having any vegetation, that it be withdrawn to 15 feet setback from that front lot line. The past, what was cited in the report was precedence for the through lot being granted variances from the zoning ordinance. So that is what the precedence was that you were presented with. There is also additional precedence by the board where they granted for corner lots relief. There was only one instance, and it was at 2348 Hawk Drive, where they didn't grant the relief the petitioner wanted, which is to bring that bring the fence up within 2 feet of the property line. The setback was withdrawn and moved further back 10 feet away from the property line. So there is precedence for that as well. And that's one thing as we as staff are going to try to address in remediating the ordinance. But the idea behind the ordinance update in 2022 was to set a standard, and that's what staff came up with when in its recommendation, to basically require the property owner to follow that standard that you would have if you had a through lot. So what staff has offered up is a denial of the request by the petitioner, but in lieu of that, the fence may be kept at the 4 feet height it currently is on the property line, or the other option is the fence may be moved back 12 feet behind the property line with one evergreen tree planted outside the fence. That's what staff recommends. I would ask, are there any questions?
Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, so maybe just a little bit of context.
Yeah.
So on these through lots, we updated our code in 2022 and said, okay, on through lots where you've got more traffic, on both sides, through lot having a front frontage and a rear frontage to a road, we did allow those fences to be at that 12-foot or 15-foot interval. And we would say, if we were to update the code today, we would write the code to have that same 12 or 15-foot interval for corner lots as well. The code doesn't say that. So we think it would make sense for this board to consider allowing it to stay as is at 4 foot at the property line. That's a use by right. You can do that if you want to. Or if you want to go to 6 foot, do it the same as we would require you to do if you were a through lot, which is 12 or 15 foot, depending on your landscaping. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's our offer.
So this fence that he has partially built, that is on the property line, is that correct?
Correct.
But it's conforming because he's only 4 foot.
He's 4 feet, but he wants 6 feet all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna have to take all that out?
He would have to take that out. I don't suppose he wants 2 fences, so he'd have to take that out to go to 6 foot.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Was any of this done, like the details were approved because of visual things for cars turning? I don't think that's a problem here, because I can see there's a lot of dirt.
Yeah, I don't think they're in the vision triangle
it's
that we
not.
would call.
That already, and it isn't. It doesn't go into the visual triangle.
Right.
The fencing would not.
And my recollection is the 4 foot fence was permitted appropriately. I guess I don't know for sure, but I think they
isn't a-
started and they realized, boy, that'd be nice to be 6
That
foot.
was,
and
that
how
was
do
the
we do it?
original application. It says 4, 4, and 4, and this is the contractor's handwriting.
Okay.
But you have found 4 exceptions on corner lots.
We did, those were done before
Yes,
we
but those
updated
all
the code.
Before
Before
the
we
update.
updated.
They
Okay.
predated
Right.
the ordinance update. All those cases did. So we were trying to sort of corral this by the ordinance update For through lots, same thing as what we're trying to do here with corner lots.
I know when we originally discussed this, there was a lot of talk about why is 4 feet the magic number? Nobody knows.
Yeah, I don't
There
have
were
a
some
good answer
reasons
for
given,
you, but
but-
I think, we could go back and do the research, but that's a
Right.
pretty standard number, kind of
Yeah.
across the country.
Yeah,
4, 5, and 6 kind of are the numbers. I don't know. I don't have a good answer as to why they chose that. I suppose it's something to do with visibility.
It
To your
was
earlier
3
question.
feet at one time, and then it got upgraded to 4 feet. And the reasoning behind, from at least what I have heard, why we don't want to sort of lean to the 6-foot-high fences because of, like Mark said, a security issue. And many police, as they're doing their patrols, don't really want to see a high fence somewhere if it's going to obscure something that somebody's doing they shouldn't be doing.
You can also get, when you have streets that are, maybe you've experienced this, where you have fences up to the property line, really tall fences up the property line, you create a tunnel effect, which
yes,
some cities don't necessarily want to create.
right.
So if every neighbor down the line did a 6-foot fence at the property line, eventually you get a tunnel, kind of a walled tunnel effect.
Right.
Anything else, you guys? Is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of the request? If you don't mind going to the podium, stating your name and, back there. Right here? Right behind you.
Behind you.
Do I press this?
So state your name and,
I think press it to the red, yeah,
Is it
now
now?
you're good.
Press the button?
Nope, just leave it now, you should be fine.
Okay,
is he on?
Try again, try pressing it, sorry.
there we go.
Yep.
Is that better?
Yep.
There you go, you're good.
I'm James Manise. I'm the one doing the work for them.
You're the contractor?
Right.
Okay. And did you want to explain the situation or, and you're speaking in favor of this petition, so did you want to explain it a little bit more?
It sounds like you understand it pretty well. It's already set back far enough from the road that it's not really a visibility issue for traffic
Traffic.
turning. It's about 22 feet back from the road. And the fence posts where they are now are about 2 feet inside the sidewalk or about 2 feet inside the property line. And the reason they wanted the taller fence was because, and I know from working on the fence, doing the front and the back part of the fence, there's a lot of people that walk by there every day. And they were just wanting privacy from that and like from the traffic noise. And I don't know if it makes any difference as far as the ordinance. They're Muslims, so their women wear the head covering and they like privacy for that as well. So when they're out in their yard, they have privacy from people walking by all the time and looking in their yard.
Is it even feasible to move it the 12 feet? I see that big tree.
Yeah, they would probably have a tree issue. I mean, they would have to take a tree down, I'm guessing, or go around the tree or something. But yeah, that would be in the way. I think I'd also remind the board, we had a similar case last time we met,
Right,
and
right.
we did deny it.
Right.
Similar, not exactly the same.
Right.
We did deny it. And then, the petitioner's not expressed to us until today any type of religious exemption or anything like that. And so that's not something staff has contemplated.
That it's not common.
Right, that's information,
religious-
that's new information to me. So if there's some type of religious exemption being sought, that would be something staff would want to relook at and bring back to the board after talking with council. But that information just now became to light, so.
You originally must have agreed to put up a 4-foot fence because part of it's up. Or
Well, we didn't put up the section
Okay.
that's
that's
in
there.
question, right?
But you would take down what's there and make that all 6 foot?
Well, the posts are 6
6
foot,
foot.
but no fencing is up right now.
But you would have to move all the posts. if you stayed 6 foot and didn't get the variance.
Right, we would have to move all the posts.
Well,
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not really, just that there's a lot of people that use that sidewalk, like constantly going by, and it's just for that reason, that's the main reason is because of that. And they do have small kids, so they want the security for when their kids are out in the backyard playing after school.
Did they know about the 4-foot requirement? I'm just trying to figure out, because obviously they contracted you for a 4-foot fence, and now they're asking for a 6-foot fence. So I'm just trying to figure out where the communication was.
Well, they contracted me for a 6-foot fence, but because the permit was slow to come through, we didn't know until after we had started. So we did the back section and the front section that's between the houses, which is allowed to be 6 feet. And then the permit came through late because I had tried to send in the application, but for some reason it didn't go through.
okay.
So we found out like halfway through, once we finally got the permit, that they were limited to 4 feet.
Do you see an impossibility of going around that tree?
They could, yeah, the tree is right about where the 12-foot setback is. So you probably want to take the tree out, and then
Oh, that'd be tough.
it would be up to them whether they would want to go to the expense of moving the posts, and, because it's about, 70 or 80 feet of fence there.
That's their only privacy.
Do you see, there is some solution that you might have, though, to incorporate that tree into the overall fence?
Well, I suppose we could build the fence up to either side of it if they didn't want to get rid of their tree.
So yes, there could be a solution.
Right, the other thing is there's a gas line that runs behind their house. So they were already required to move their fence 10 feet inside that, inside their property line on the back side. So their yard they're wanting to get as much yard as they can, so they didn't want to, continue to bring the fence in closer and closer and make their yard smaller and smaller.
Just for my own clarification, you can start a project without having the permit?
No, you can't. Typically, you can't.
Okay.
It's kind of a minor infraction. We're not really too worried about that, but yes,
Well,
have
only
that.
because of the change in the height.
Yeah, so kind of end up with a fence that's got 6-foot posts and it can only be 4 foot. But that's the problem with taking that risk, it kind of put that on yourself when you do that.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak and oppose to the request? Seeing none. Any further discussion from the board?
No.
I don't think so.
Would anyone like to enter a motion?
No.
You want me to?
Go ahead, Rob.
I make a motion that we deny the request to allow the 6-foot high fence without moving that fence within the bounds of the ordinance. Moving it the additional 2 feet to be consistent with everything else that we have approved and allowed through the years.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Springer,
Yes.
Domberg,
Yes,
Vermillion.
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot my job for a second.
that's right. Sorry,
Have
it was
different rules
denied.
tonight.
Going down
Yeah.
on the job.
Maybe you can revisit it with the owners and move it back and save the tree and, but thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks.
All right, next case is case 24-062, 2846 Villa Court, which is an R5. Variance to reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 21 feet to allow construction of a deck submitted by Fitz's Fence and Deck. Staff report?
Yes, the petitioner is requesting a deck, and you'll remember that the address adjacent to this was the one that had received a request for greater setback variance from 25 feet down to 16. The request here is for basically adding on to what is existing with a 12 by 12 deck and then a 4 by 12 stairwell. This area is in an R5 zone district. It is part of mixed transitional zoning. This originally was zone C5, so all the setbacks at one time were 20 feet. So now it's in violation, or would be, of those setback standards, being it's a 25-foot rear yard setback. This is the area right here that would be added to for the new decking. And as you can see, there are a relevant and substantial amount of decks already placed back here and having already received variances to encroach into that rear yard setback. When this is platted, this is a constrained remnant, and it was platted with the idea that it would be under C5 zoning with a special use permit to accommodate 2 family dwellings. And also the right-of-way was reduced here from 52 to a 50-foot standard. So there is accommodation to try to make this parcel usable so that it could accommodate housing. And the reasoning being is there was a substantial amount of ground taken for the 53rd Avenue widening that ended up constraining this parcel right here. So the parcel is already constrained. You already have 20-foot setbacks front and rear yard. What the petitioner wants to do is simply do what has been done in many R5 zoning areas where there are constrained rear yards. And they're only simply going to extend this deck further to the west with very little in the way of encroachment in terms of relief being asked, because you're essentially looking at only about 4 feet. Under the old standards, they wouldn't even have to ask for a variance. So they're looking for that 4-foot encroachment to accommodate this structure. There is precedence for this, as we already saw at 2834 Villa Park, and that was a variance case that occurred within the last 2 months before the board, and the variance is granted for relief from 25 down to 16 feet in terms of a 9-foot encroachment into the rear yard. 2814 Villa Court, in 2020, there was a reduction of that rear yard setback from 25 feet to 11 feet to, again, accommodate a deck. And there are numerous other cases within Everest Summit Edition where this has also occurred. And there are other R5 cases as well, some of them going back to the C5 standards, even one again on Villa Court, 2804 Villa Court, where there was a reduction of 6 feet in that instance. So you go essentially by today's standards, 25 feet down to 14 feet. So there is nothing that is somewhat out of the norm. Staff in reviewing the last 20 years could not find any R5 zoned area where there had been a denial of any similar type rear yard setback request reductions. For that reason, staff recommends approval of this particular request. I would ask if there are any questions.
Any questions from the board? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the request? Please state your name.
My name's Kyle Fitzemeyer. I'm the owner of Fitz's Fence and Deck. I'm just here to see if it all goes through to make sure the deck can be built.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here opposed? I think you're the only one here. So I don't think there's any opposition tonight. No further discussion from the board? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I gotcha. I'll make the motion to approve case 24062 to allow the variance to reduce the required rear setback from 25 to 21 feet.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Springer,
Yes.
Toomberg,
Yes?
Vermillion.
Yes.
All right, it passed. Thank you for coming tonight. All right, any other further business for the board to discuss? Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I got you, I'll do that too.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.